What's up guys, Belmont here. So it's finally time for me to talk about Castlevania Rondo of Blood in 3D. This amazing PSP title, besides having the whole game reworked in 3D with new gameplay mechanics, which some people would like and dislike, but we'll get to that in a moment, also brought us the original Rondo of Blood and Castlevania Symphony of the Night as bonuses. So yes, in reality, you're getting 3 for 1. And as you can see right here, I'm running this game in a very high resolution. We are running this game in 2K. So I'm really showing you the best of both worlds, because at the same time that I'm reviewing it, I'm giving you a lot of good stuff to look at in 2K. So it's basically a 2 for 1 type of deal. So with that in mind, why don't you go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe to help us grow. Come on, it's a good deal. Now, going back to Castlevania Rondo of Blood, this is one of the most iconic entries in the franchise. Ask any Castlevania fan, and they'll tell you how great, how grand Castlevania Rondo of Blood is, and that's for a number of reasons. First of all, the grand evolution that the standard Classicvania formula has gone through. Let me elaborate. In most Classicvania games, you only have one set path to follow and one character to play as. That's usually what we're gonna get, unless you're playing, Castlevania 3 on the NES. And we also have the amazing Bloodlines, which I have reviewed, and I'm gonna leave the link for it right now on screen. However, Rondo of Blood saw us playing as Richter Belmont, which is my favorite Belmont, and this is a question I always ask you guys whenever I mention Castlevania. What's your favorite Belmont? Let me know in the comments right now who and why. And besides playing as this no BS Belmont, you also get to save and play as Maria. Yes, I'm talking about the same extremely high-powered Maria Renard you get to see in Castlevania Symphony of the Night. However, in here, she is still a child. She must be like, what, 7, 9 years old. But don't let her age fool you. She's able to double jump, she attacks with the power of beasts, she has several special attacks, so in a way, she is stronger than Richter, believe it or not. And the multiple paths this game offers us not only serve to increase the total replay value of it, but also show how Konami really cared about its franchises back then. I know it's a very strange concept nowadays to say, hey, do you know that Konami actually cared once? If you go for someone who's actually newer, somewhere in his or her teens, they're gonna say, what? And then we're gonna say, yeah, they were honestly a very good company, believe it or not. And just the other day, actually, as I was capturing this footage, this is my own gameplay footage, I think it was on the 6th stage, the one where I face off against Death, and I came across those 2 boxes, and I, for some reason, was able to push them. I didn't know I could do that on the first time. Actually, I did several other playthroughs on it, but I did, and I ended up somewhere completely new to me. So this goes, this is a testament to show how rich Rondo of Blood is and has always been. And as you can see right there on screen, we have the Minotaur chase sequence. I think this is like as iconic as it gets for a non-Dracula sequence in any Classicvania, and it's been redone in 3D, and the result we got was absolutely stunning. Really, just take a look at this. Again, 2K, you can see how crisp, how rich Richter's details, his garments look, the scenery, the bosses, and right there you can see on screen right now, we are gonna rescue Maria from the hands of Shaft. I'm talking about the wizard, not the guy from TV. As you can see, still a kid. Now let's talk a little bit about Rondo of Blood's enemies. As you've seen earlier into this video, you do have some new enemies like that huge golem you're gonna face. That's not the only new enemy you're gonna be seeing in the Classicvania subgenre of Castlevania. And what's really interesting is the enemy placement. This is actually something I always pay attention to whenever I'm playing an action game, a platformer game, any game that has you facing hordes of enemies or many enemies at once. And in Rondo of Blood, the enemy distribution is very balanced. It's very fair. It's been very well thought out. There's no cheap moment where they're just gonna throw a lot of enemies at you with the sole purpose of artificially enhancing the difficulty, in order to create some sort of cheap danger, just so you can, extend the game's life for an hour or so. No. Whatever you get here has been done with quality. Every single second you spend playing Rondo of Blood, no matter which version it is gonna be prime time. And I also think it's pretty safe to say that out of every single Classicvania, and by the way, I have a list of Castlevania games for newcomers. I'm gonna leave it on the card right now. Go give it a watch once you're done with this video, because it's a project of passion. I love Castlevania. Everybody in here knows it. So, I'm more than willing, I'm more than happy whenever I'm able to share some information to give you guys some help on where to start with this, long-running franchise. But getting back to Rondo of Blood, I believe Rondo is the Classicvania with the best boss selection out of any Classicvania. They are very diverse. Their move patterns, they actually make sense. There's no cheap shots here if you know what you're doing. I'm gonna say it's manageable. I'm not gonna say it's easy to beat every single boss without taking a hit. And there we have the Minotaur, which is one of my personal favorite bosses, both in Rondo as well as in Symphony of the Night, where he appears as a tag team with the werewolf. I just love facing him. And really, that's just one of the many cool bosses this game has to offer. And remember, 2 different paths you can take, so you're gonna have a lot of bosses to face. And I always mention death, Dracula's loyal servant. The battle against death in Rondo of Blood is my favorite apparition of death in the entire franchise, because after you're done with phase 1, where death will just hover around throwing those annoying sickles, what happens is death removes I'm gonna see, this is gonna sound absurd, but once you see it, you're gonna understand it. It removes its work clothes, its nighttime clothes, and you see death in some sort of robe, and the battle that ensues, the tone, Death's actions, they change a lot. It's no longer someone who needs to play a role in order to serve. Death's aggression in that second phase, to me, it's pretty clear, it's who Death really is. You're no longer fighting Dracula's servant. No, this is a mano-a-mano fight. He wants you dead, and you want to take him out. That's all there is in that moment. Sheer battle spirit. And also in Run of Blood, both in this version and in the original, in the original Run of Blood, a lot of the dialogue scenes, actually I believe all of the dialogue cutscenes, they're portrayed in hand-drawn anime. It's beautiful, it's stunning, and due to, storage capacity, it wasn't something that was done very often back then, so when we got that, we were like, wow. And they were all fully voiced too. And the final exchange between Dracula and Richter, it doesn't really matter which version you go for. I personally recommend that you watch the original Run of Blood version, not just for the nostalgia, but for the impact it gives out when you see, the composition between voice clips, the move, the animation, the lighting effects that have been hand-drawn. Everything looks so good. And this exchange between both of them really shows us how intelligent Dracula really is. I'm not saying, oh, I agree with him. I don't. But the way he presents his philosophy, he presents his thoughts, his arguments, his ideas, is something that up until that point had never been seen in a Classicvania game. Richter stands tall, he never wavers against Dracula's rhetoric, but even so, Dracula makes some really strong points. Again, I don't agree with them, but he's very articulate, and I thought that to be amazing. And if you're thinking, well, is this the same dialogue sequence we get in the prologue of Symphony of the Night? The best answer I have to give you is yes and no. The Symphony of the Night version is more condensed. Okay, the original dialogue is actually quite a bit longer, and again, I cannot stress this enough. When you're done with this, go give it a watch, look it up on YouTube or something, because it really adds a lot to Dracula's personality. I think it's my favorite cutscene, it's my favorite moment in the entire Castlevania franchise, hands down. So when you put everything together, that Castlevania, Run of Blood, both this beautifully done 3D rendition. Oh, by the way, let's talk about the game mechanics, the game combats. I almost forgot to talk about that. Whenever I start talking about Rondo, I get excited. But the thing is, in Rondo of Blood, the gameplay has changed. I'm not going to say substantially, because, it still plays exactly the same. But the jumping mechanics, they are a little bit airier. Richter, he feels a little bit lighter in his jumps and movements. So, on your first playthrough, if you're coming straight out of the classic Run of Blood, then you're going to have a little bit of a hard time at first, because you're going to need to adjust your jump, your attack timing, which I believe it's a little bit slower than the original game. But listen, this isn't like going from Ace Combat to DCS, okay? It's still the same game, man, and probably after 5 minutes, you know, you have found your way around it. And when you put everything together that Rondo of Blood brings us, again, both the original version and this one, owning a copy of Rondo of Blood, and what I'm about to say is strictly personal, you know, whenever I see someone with a copy of Rondo of Blood, then it's almost some sort of a secret badge, you know, that it takes one to know one type of situation, because, you know, whenever someone owns Rondo of Blood, you can bet that that person has a very good taste, is a very demanding person for good games. That person won't just play anything. No, man, if you play Rondo, you won't settle for shit. So make sure to stay tuned for tomorrow's episode. We publish videos daily. Take good care of yourself, good care of your family, your pets, your loved ones, your friends, and I'll see you next time. Bauman out.